Yo, today on your favorite podcast, we're talking about how normal is toxic. What? What are you talking about? Stay tuned and you'll find out right here on Legacy. Always bringing you hope in the midst of the madness. I'm your host for Legacy, Kinsley Jordan, your winning coach, encouraging you each and every day to crush your goals, ignite your dreams, and forge a legacy in your life. And I'm telling you, in case you couldn't tell from the intro, we're talking about, we're going off the script today, which, I normally do. But we're talking about normal is toxic. What? Kinsley, what are you talking about? Normal is toxic. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. I've heard a lot of people over the last several weeks when we're talking about COVID-19, the pandemic, everything that's been taking place. I've heard a lot of people talk about, this is the new normal. This is just what normal is now. This is the new aspect of life. But I don't see it as a bad thing. Yeah, I know. Before you go throwing your fruit and your watermelons and tomatoes at me, hold on, let me clarify that statement. From where I'm sitting, I'm in the world of innovation, of design thinking, of iterative thinking of how can we do things better? How can we do things smarter? How can we do things faster? How can we do things more efficiently? And I'm not just talking about business. I'm talking about you in your life, literally right now. As your winning coach, my job is to help you accomplish your goals and streamline what you do on a day-to-day basis to be able to more effectively reach your potential in your life. But there's a lot of businesses that I not only consult for, but also businesses that I literally help along the way in this innovative process. And one of the things that I've noticed in this whole COVID pandemic is that there are a lot of businesses, a lot of organizations, a lot of people who have played it safe for a long time. You know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of people in organizations that have been entrenched in bureaucracy, that have been entrenched in safe thinking, that we have gotten so used to our regimented schedule, not even just a regimented schedule. I mean, packing the schedule full, only doing what the corporate line says, only doing things because that's the way we've always done it, or only doing things because that's the way the process has been for a long time. I don't know if you rewind the clock 2-3 months ago, but my guess is this, is that you were living a life that was jam-packed, your schedule was full, the kids had about 18 different things going on, and work was the same way that it's always been. But what's happened in the last 2 months? What's happened in your life? Everything has literally been flipped upside down. Why? Is because normal life can be toxic at times. And I'm going to tell you what that means in just a second, but I need you to go with me on this trail. Everything's been flipped upside down in this regard, is that not only has our lives changed, but the way that we make decisions has changed. The way that we live our life, the way that we do business has everything has been flipped upside down. And it's forced us to go from this safe mindset where we knew what was dependable, we knew what was expected, we knew what was available, to this mindset of risky business. And what I mean by that is that risky business, this realm of innovation, innovative thinking, design thinking, is forcing us outside of the box because everything we thought was normal, everything we thought was the sacred cow that normally isn't touched, hey, processes don't change, the market doesn't flex this much, our lives are pretty consistent. All of that has been changed. But what does that mean for us? It means that we have the opportunity to redefine how we look at this system. Yeah, I'm serious. It means that now what used to be safe is completely upside down. We have had to force ourselves to think completely outside of the box. And the reason why that's a good thing is because for a lot of us, we have allowed our time, our energy, our effort, even our mindset to be so focused on what a standard system has allowed us to do. Take, for example, this. There's a couple organizations that I've seen that I've helped work through issues in the past. I'm talking large organizations where the bureaucratic red tape has slowed down any semblance of efficiency that ever could have been created. I mean, anything that could have been a good, efficient process has a trail of paperwork that has to go to it. that is associated to it to get anything approved. Anything that could have been incredibly useful for the individual to be able to do their job better literally has to get approval from multiple different people. But when you're faced with a catastrophe, when you're faced with a tragic situation, or you're faced with an opportunity like what a pandemic is, and yes, I said opportunity because it is an opportunity to just how we do things. When you're faced with this opportunity, things have to change. Things have to adjust. You're faced with a mentality that you are either having to grow or you're going to die. I mean, look at businesses around here. So there's some of us listening to this podcast, we've literally been impacted. Some of us may have lost our jobs. Some of us may be uncertain about what the market is looking forward ahead in the upcoming months. Some of us may be business owners where we say, dude, I don't know what's going to happen with the market. But this is why I say that's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be able to look at the situation and say, listen, we either have to adapt what we're doing and grow into a way of life that is going to allow us to continue to exist, or we are going to crumble like the ruins of Rome. Like, we don't have a choice. We have to adjust. And for a lot of us in our lives, when faced with the harsh reality of having to adjust to changing circumstances, it's the first time we have had to step outside of our comfort zone. It's the first time where we're having to think outside of the box. It's the first time we're having to adjust what we've done. And here's a perfect example of it. So there's this organization I have the honor of being part of. And the focus had been very much about location, about events, about what we were doing. And when the pandemic struck, we weren't able to have people in the same places that we used to be able to. We had to find a way to be able to reach out to these people. You see businesses and restaurants doing this all the time, that instead of focusing on people coming into the store, they're offering to-go orders or literally delivery now where they didn't used to. Well, during this whole pandemic situation, when you look at what that was, there was two options. One, you can continue doing what you're doing and cease to exist. Or two, you can say, we've got to change. We've got to grow. We've got to adapt to what we're doing. And that's literally what happened. Instead of being focused on people coming to them, the organization said, you know what, we need to adapt. We need to focus on how we're reaching people. We need to focus on what the message is as we're reaching people. We need to focus on the level of excellence in which we're taking it to people. And you know what happened? Over the course of the last several weeks, where the majority of people would say, this is terrible. How could this possibly happen? We're not going to be able to see any growth. The organization was able to see more growth from people who they never would have ever been able to reach had they not focused on adapting to the situation, adapting to the circumstances, and finding a new way to grow and move forward. I know, it sounds insane. It sounds insane to say that being normal is toxic to your health, it's toxic to your environment, it's toxic to your growth, but it literally is. Why? Why is that? Is because when we get so entrenched in our ways of what normal is, we stop finding new ways to do things. We stop finding new and exciting avenues of growth. We stop finding new ways to challenge ourselves, to create a new dynamic, to see maybe a new way of reaching people, or a new way of doing a workout, or a new way of challenging ourselves to be able to grow in our own personal lives. When we stick to what normal is, all you get is normal. All you get is the same results. And that's why I say this, that being normal is toxic. It's toxic to your success. It's toxic to your future. It's toxic to your ability to be able to truly reach your potential in your life like you want to. Because when we get normal, we get comfortable. When we stick to the same way that we've always done things for all of eternity, and we continue saying, well, this is how the company has always done it, that doesn't mean it's a good reason to continue doing it. All it means is that you've been doing the same thing for a long time. And you will probably be frustrated to find out that the results have been the same for a long time. When you're used to seeing a certain set of results, you're literally left with one of two things. Continue doing what you're doing, and you're going to continue getting the same results. It's called insanity. If you don't change anything of what you're doing, you're not going to get any different results. Or two, you have to adjust what you're doing. Taking an intentional step and say, we're going to intentionally get out of this structure of normal. We're going to get out of this rut of normal, and we're going to create a culture and environment in our lives which allows us to step out of the normal and into the infinite. And what I mean by that is stepping into an infinite thinking that, hey, listen, anything's possible. It's either going to take time, money, or manpower. And we just have to be able to adjust those three to be able to make this thing happen. It's a different type of thinking. And I know what you're saying. You're saying to yourself, that is great in theory, but terrible in practice. Well, when we come back right now from the break, I'm going to tell you why it's not terrible in actuality. It's not terrible in practice. It's not just good in theory. It's literally good in real life for you, for your organization, for your success. So when we come back, stay right here on the Legacy Podcast. We're jumping into the 3 steps that you can take to continually grow, to keep yourself from being normal, but instead to be exceptional. Right here on your favorite podcast, the Legacy Podcast. Hey, thanks for watching the Legacy Podcast with your winning coach, Kinsley Jordan. Now, don't forget, you can subscribe right now just by hitting the logo right over there, and make sure you hit the bell so you get notified when new great content is available to you. Also, you can follow and keep up with me at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube by just going to Kinsley Jordan. That's my tag where you can find it. Also, if you're looking for a performance coach like me to be able to help you reach your goals, just go to www.kinsleyjordan.com and sign up. I'm right here to help you achieve your goals and build a legacy in your life. So let's get back to the Legacy Podcast with more great content right here. Yo, welcome back to the Legacy Podcast, where we're talking about how being normal is literally toxic to you and your success. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, I meant it. I wouldn't have said it if I didn't mean it. Now, before you go throwing your spears to me, if you're just tuning into this right now, you probably need to go back and watch the first 10 minutes, because that's kind of the qualifier. But I'm going to make a statement that is bombastic and it's bold and it's probably going to drive you nuts, but I'm going to go ahead and say it because that's why you listened to me to begin with. The statement is this. When we're talking about COVID-19, when we're talking about the results, everybody has been talking about the new normal. Hey, what is the new normal of your life? And I'm going to tell you what the new normal in your life needs to look like. It needs to be an iterative process of continual reevaluation of what you're doing. Yeah, Nick, go ahead. Throw it on the screen right there. Beep, beep. It needs to be an iterative process of continual reevaluation, asking yourself, why? That's what it needs to be. Now, why do I say that? It's because previously I mentioned if we keep on doing the same thing we've always done, the definition of insanity is we're going to keep on getting the same results we've always gotten. But for whatever reason, a lot of us find comfort in that. We say, well, it's predictable. Well, I mean, this is normal. This allows ourselves to project into the future. Listen, I don't know about you, and I am a risk taker, but in my own life, I don't want to just, I don't want to see a linear curve. I want to see an exponential curve in what I'm doing, meaning I'm constantly getting better and better and better at a higher rate of efficiency, at a higher rate of growth. I don't want to just follow a standard curve that every day I work, I'm going to make the same amount of money, or every day that I put the same effort, the same amount of, when I put forth the same amount of effort, I'm going to get the same result. No, I want to be accelerating in what I'm doing, constantly moving forward. And that's the same thing that you say to yourself each and every day. I want to be growing at an accelerated rate. So when we're talking about growing at an accelerated rate, there's a couple of steps that we can do to be able to do that right from the get-go. The first one is this. Ask yourself, what is the real goal? What is the real thing that I'm trying to achieve? Oftentimes, when you look at the process that people have, they think they understand the problem and they think they understand the goal, but they actually don't. For example, there's several people, since I am your winning coach, there's several clients that I have where they've said, hey, I want to own a business. And when I start diving into kind of the assessment of, hey, how do they operate? What's their mindset? How do they work efficiently? What type of person are they? As we start peeling back the layers of the onion to kind of get to know them more and more, a lot of times we find out that they don't actually want to own a business at all. The thing that they're actually wanting is they're wanting to have control of their schedule. Because when you're a business owner, you bear the burden and the responsibility and the challenge of having to care and shepherd and watch over not only the company, but the growth, the return on investment, the profit that you're putting into it, your employees, what insurance you're offering the employee. There's a lot of overhead costs. There's a lot of overhead expense. There's a lot of challenge to owning and running your own business. There's a lot to it. And a lot of the clients that I've had have said, hey, yeah, man, this sounds super sexy that, I'm going to own a business. Hey, I'm going to be a business owner. I'm going to be a CEO or a founder of it. But what they don't realize is that that's not what their goal is. Their goal is to be able to spend more time with family, maybe. Their goal has actually been, they just want to have a schedule that's more dependable. And in their mind, a lot of times they say to themselves, well, if I own my own business, I get to call the shots. The sad reality is, well, yeah, you do, but you also have a ton of responsibility. And when you look at that responsibility, it actually calls a lot of the shots for you. It actually kind of determines what it is you have to do next. So when you're looking and asking yourself, hey, how do we continually grow? How do we continually expanding what we're doing? The first step is this. You have to ask yourself, what is the real goal? Going back to that example that I had, the real goal in that specific example for the individual wasn't starting a business. It wasn't launching into this major venture and starting a company and hiring people. It was actually finding a way for them to own more of their schedule. And guess what? That didn't necessarily mean they needed to own a business. What it actually meant is they needed to reevaluate how they were working and what job they did and find something that would allow them to have more flexibility. And so I ask you the same thing. When we're talking about trying to avoid being normal, I don't want to be normal. Do you? Do you really? No, I want to be something abnormal. I want to be a person or an organization or have goals that when people think about, oh my gosh, like, did you see what they're doing? That's so not normal. That's so abnormal. It's like totally outside the realm of thinking. That's the same place. And we can all absolutely get there. But it requires intentional effort. And the intentional effort, as we said, step number 1 is asking yourself, what is the real goal we're trying to achieve? Step 2 is this. Oftentimes when you understand what the goal is that you're trying to achieve, and you look at the way that you're trying to achieve it, a lot of times we've been trying to do the same thing the same way for the same amount of time. We've been trying to stick to what the system recommends that we do, whether it's in a business or whether it's in our personal life. Hey, I want to lose weight. Okay, well, you need to get a gym membership. You need to work out. But there's other ways of doing it as well. So when you look at step number 2 and you ask yourself, okay, listen, if I'm trying to identify what the real goal is in this, we have to be able to ask ourselves, why are we doing what we're doing? Why is it that you have been doing the things that you do? Why is it that you have been making the choices that you've been making now that you understand what the real goal is? You know, another example is I've had several clients who said they want to give their kids many opportunities. They want to give their kids experiences, and they want to give their kids opportunities to learn and be in different environments and see different things. And when they look at that, they've thought to themselves that the best way to do that is to put them in a bunch of different sports and a bunch of different clubs. But the only thing that they found and realized is that just makes them really busy. It means they're running around a bunch of different places. That the value of having a different experience and thinking outside of the box and doing things differently has completely been lost because they've jam-packed their schedule with so many different things. When you ask yourself, why are we doing the things we're doing, and you know what it is you're trying to accomplish, you're able to reevaluate and reassess how it is you want to do what you do. So for example, one of the organizations I work with, innovation organization, for the longest time, there was a certain process to paperwork to get this particular thing approved. And I remember asking, hey, why do we do this? Why does this process take several weeks? Why does the paperwork always take so long? I said, well, it requires a waiver. If you want to be able to accomplish this, it requires a waiver to get it done. I thought, okay, well, who's the waiver authority? Like, why does this require a waiver? Why can't we just get the process fixed to begin with? And the next question was, because that's what the regulation says. And you start going down this trail of saying, okay, well, why are we doing the things we're doing? Why does this process require this extensive paperwork? And why do we have to get a waiver? And why does the regulation say that? And when you peel back again the layers of the onion and we really got to the root cause, the amazing thing is that the document that required the waiver was written 9 years ago. 9 years ago. You know how many things change in technology and innovation over the course of months? And we are still being driven by a process that was written 9 years ago. 9 years ago, a lot of the things that we were trying to get approved didn't even exist. They weren't even in the market. They were just a thought in somebody's brain somewhere. They didn't even actually exist. So we were using an old process to determine the functionality of our new invention, our new innovation, our new efficiency. How crazy is that? How crazy is it that so many times in our lives we can allow past experiences, we can allow past processes to determine our future success? The craziest thing we could ever do is allow previous failures in our life or a previous process that turned out to not work out. The craziest thing we could ever do is allow that to determine what we're doing moving forward. But oftentimes that's exactly what we do. And you know what people call it? They say, well, that's wisdom. Wisdom is, this didn't work before, so it's not going to work now. No. It didn't work before because you tried it a certain way. But when you think about things differently, when you actually know what it is you're trying to accomplish, going back to question 1, and you ask yourself, why are we doing the things we're doing? It allows you to frame things in a different perspective, and it allows you to think about them differently. So it's not that you're doing the same thing over and over and over. Instead, when you allow yourself to think differently for this continual growth model with these 2 questions and getting to the 3rd question, it allows you to make sure that you are constantly reevaluating what you're doing and that what you're doing is actually efficient and effective. Yeah, I know. It's literally that easy. But you have to be consistent with it. You got to continue moving forward with this mindset. So going back to the questions. Question number 1, what is the real goal for continual growth? What is the real goal? Question number 2, why are we doing what we're doing? What has led us to build this process? And question number 3 is this. It's probably the most important question you can ever ask yourself. What if? What if? Now think about that for a second. What if we could do this? What if I started running 5 times a week instead of 2 times a week? What if instead of getting a gym membership and never going, what if I got a gym partner? Somebody who would go with me and hold me accountable? What if instead of being held back by the previous failure of trying to go to school, I realize that I'm in a different phase of life. I realize that I have I have more experience than I had. I have more maturity than I had. And what if I realize maybe things would be different now? The power of asking ourselves that question, what if? There's so much power in that because what it does is it unlocks the doors of bureaucracy. It unlocks the doors of normal and allows us to look at the potential of what could happen. In the world of innovation, we call these moonshot. This is a moonshot idea because somebody was sitting around at some point when after Orville and Wilbur Wright created their flying invention and after the balloons had gone to high altitudes of 50,000 feet and people were exploring the atmosphere, the environment, the air, somebody asked themselves, what would happen if we launched into space? What if we created a rocket that would allow us to propel higher than we've ever propelled before? Now, when you ask those questions, here's the deal. There's a lot of risk associated to it. When you start asking questions and you create an environment in your life, I'm talking in your personal life or maybe in your business or in your culture, when you allow yourselves to ask these questions and ask the what if question, what you're doing is creating an environment in your own life and in your business and in your culture that it's okay to question the status quo. You're creating an environment that allows people to think risky. You're allowing people to step out of the box of normalcy and into the box of risky. You're allowing yourself to stop being held back by the toxicity of what the standard is, of what the normal is, and launch yourself into a totally different mindset that isn't disciplined, but instead is celebrated. Why is that so important? Look at Tesla. What if Elon Musk had stopped asking the question of what was possible? Tesla wouldn't even exist. SpaceX would be nothing. The Tesla Roadsters, the idea of battery technology would not be as far as it possibly is, just because one person asked himself, what if it was possible? So today I ask you, what if? What if you started having this mindset that your new normal, I won't even say the new normal, your new way of thinking needed to be an iterative process over and over and over. You're asking yourself and reevaluating what was possible. What if you did that in every area of your life? What if everything you did was intentional? Not because you felt like you had to do it, not because you always used to do it, not because your parents used to do it, or not because your boss told you to do it, but what if everything you did was intentionally done because you knew what your goal was? You asked the question of, why am I doing what I'm doing? And you challenge yourself to say, what if I did it differently? There's a lot of us that our life would look totally different. There's a lot of us, in fact, all of us, where life looks totally different, even literally right now. When you think about COVID-19, a lot of us have been on quarantine. A lot of us really haven't even gotten out in public or been able to share the time with people. We've been pretty much confined for the most part to us or our family, and life already looks different. So what I'm encouraging you today, right now on the Legacy Podcast, is this. Don't try to get back to the old normal. Don't go back there. Celebrate the new person that you are. Celebrate the new opportunity that this quote unquote new normal is. But I want you to take it a step farther. I want you to consider normal as toxic to your life. I want you to consider the thought, just the thought maybe, that you don't want to go back to how things were. And I'm not saying if you lost your job that you don't want to go back to having a job. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, let's not go back to the old way of thinking about life, but let's go to a new direction, a new mindset, a new thought and ability of thinking outside of the box, thinking infinitely that, maybe I can actually go after my dreams. Maybe like those businesses that I talked about, how sad would it be if they went back to the old way of doing business after they had looked at this new possibility of reaching people in a different way? They'd been able to reach out to them, but then they didn't continue doing what they were doing. How sad would it be if you didn't continue taking the ground and keeping the efficiencies that you created as you moved forward? It'd be incredibly sad. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it would be a waste to be able to create that efficiency in your life and not keep it. So today, I want you to lock in those 3 principles, those 3 simple questions. The first question is this: what is the real goal? The second question ask yourself for continual growth in your life is, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why is it that I do the things that I do? And the third question is, cut off the chains, cut off the barriers that have been holding you back, and ask yourself, what if I did things differently? I promise you, these 3 simple steps to continual growth are literally going to radically change your life, how you think about things. And the last overarching thought is this: don't go back to normal, because normal is toxic. It will keep you in the same rut. It will keep you in the same place that you've always been. And we don't want to stay in the same place we've always been. We want to keep moving forward and growing, because that's what the Legacy Podcast is all about. It's my goal as your winning coach, Kinsley Jordan, to be able to propel you into crushing your goals, igniting your dreams, and forging a legacy in your life. And we can't do it if we keep on staying in the old normal rut. So get moving. Get changing. If you're not growing, you're dying, and make sure you apply those 3 steps today, literally right now. I want to hear in the comment section below how you and your life have been changed by just thinking about these 3 simple steps, and stay tuned right here on the Legacy Podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the icon right over there, and you hit the bell for notifications so you can get more great content right here on your favorite podcast, Legacy Podcast. For your winning coach, I'll see you next time right here